We have all been there, planning to buy a new CPU for our good old desktop PC, or buying a new PC in some case to take part in the PC Master Race. We will log on to Amazon or eBay in search of a new CPU or a pre-built PC. Meanwhile, our brain will be getting bombarded with a series of letters and numbers that we don't know what they exactly mean. To make your life better, in this video, we'll go over all the letters and numbers that you are bound to see in many of Intel's processors and get to know what each of them mean and what they represent. This video is purely for educational purposes as no one runs out and buys an Intel CPU in 2020. So without wasting any more time, let's dive in. Intel releases a new generation of CPUs with same features every year by prompting it to be equipped with new technology and optimizations with each generations. But it is not merely the technology and performance that changes. The letter designations differ from generation to generation as well. Which is why we'll be taking a look at each generation's particular letter designations separate, starting from the latest and going back all the way to where it all started. Firstly, the 10th generation. The latest 10th generation Ice Lake CPUs uses an alphanumeric scheme based on generation and product line following the brand and its modifier. The first two digits of the four-number sequence indicates the generation of the processor. The next two digits are SKU numbers followed by the level of graphics. Intel's 10th generation is the latest from their side, which uses a 10 nanometer racket. Moving on to 9th generation. The 9th generation of Intel's Coffee Lake CPUs uses the same alphanumeric scheme as the other generations, but there are only two main letter designations to make a note of. The first one is K, which means that the processor is unlocked and can be overclocked to squeeze extra performance out of it at the cost of additional power consumption and heat generation. The second one is F, which means that the processor has no integrated graphics and therefore you need a discrete graphics card to connect the PC to a display. There are some other letters that are not very important, but guys, Intel on the whole is not important, but we are making a video on it, so let's cover those two. The next letter is T, which means that the processor is power optimized. And the final letter is S, which means that the processor is a special edition. You might ask me, is there anything special in special edition? But damn do I need to tell you, S in Intel stands for stupidity. Just get over with it. And to answer the question, other than the glittery gold box, there is nothing special in the special edition of that CPU. Moving on, the 9th generation has some mobile processors with the following designations: H and HK. H means that the processor is equipped with high performance graphics, whatever it is. And HK stands for high performance graphics, which is unlocked and can be overclocked. Now for 8th generation. For the 8th generation Intel's Coffee Lake CPUs, there are only three letters to consider: K, G and U. K is the same that we saw earlier, which enables us to overclock the processor. G means that the processor has more advanced graphics than what Intel usually offers. But for now, it comes down solely to Radeon's Vega graphics, as Intel themselves know they suck. U signifies that the CPU has ultra low power consumption and these are reserved for laptops and optimized for best battery life whatsoever. But this is a kind of double-edged sword. With respect to the great battery life, it suffers a lack of performance compared to other models. Moving on to 7th generation. The 7th generation KB Lake CPUs has quite a few letters more, but it shares the K and U designations with the 8th generation. The first letter is T. It is similar to U in regard that it signifies a processor for power efficiency, but it still consumes more power than U designated models. Up next is H, HK and HQ. H indicates that the processor is equipped with more powerful graphics, although this is still Intel's integrated chip and these are not powerful as those found in G designated chips. HK and HQ denote that the processor is also either unlocked or has 4 cores respectively, in addition to having advanced graphics. The last one is Y. Y indicates lower power consumption. Only the Y designated model takes it even lower than the U designated model. As a result, they are the most power efficient but also have the worst performance. Technically, all Intel CPUs are worse in their own way, but this particular designated CPUs are worse at another level. Moving on to next generation, Generation 6. Thankfully, the 6th generation Skylake CPUs share all designations with the 7th generation. The only difference is that there are no Y designated chips in this generation. Now, 5th generation. The 5th generation Intel processors has two main designations to account for, C and R. C indicates that a processor is unlocked and it uses a LGA 1150 socket, and it also has high performance graphics. R indicates that it uses a BGA 1364 socket, which is only available on EMB QM87A motherboard, which is an mini ITX motherboard. The other designations like H and U are same as the other generations. Now let's talk about M-line processors, which are a part of 5th generation. The Intel Core brand also includes a handful of CPUs as M3, M5 and M7. These all are Y designated processors used for maximum power efficiency. Just like other Y models, they are reserved for the thinnest and most lightweight laptops such as MacBooks, etc. Now it's time for the good old processors that our parents owned, which we used to play flash games and learn paint, etc. If you think the above naming scheme is complex enough, buckle up for the upcoming letters. Code to Duo has nearly 7 new letters, actually old letters, which are new to us. The first one among them is E, which stands for processors that have dual cores and have a higher TDP. Up next is L, which stands for mobile processors with the lowest TDP as possible. Next one is P, which is for mobile processors that is highly efficient with a moderate TDP. The last one is Q and QX, which stands for the processors used to indicate quad-core and quad-core with extreme performance. Now, for the final showdown, we have Intel's Atom and Celeron processors. These were the first set of chipsets that Intel manufactured, which actually made a name for Intel. These types of processors had a meaningful naming scheme just using the numbers. If the number is higher, there will be more features, and if the number is low, then it will have a lesser number of features. Simple, right? It would have been easy if Intel used the same kind of scheme rather than whatever they use today. So I guess that's all for this video. To conclude the video, I have a final piece of advice from my side. AMD is better.